Residents are under some of the toughest restrictions in the US. They're told to remain at home and avoid travel except for grocery shopping, medical appointments and daily exercise, while restaurants are limited to takeout and bars are closed altogether. The country as a whole has reported 333,000 deaths since the pandemic began, and as of Sunday, 118,000 people were in US hospitals with the disease.
President-elect Joe Biden blasted the Trump administration on Monday, accusing it of obstructing his transition team and weakening national security.
Right now, we just aren't getting all the information that we need for the outgoing administration in key national security areas. It's nothing short, in my view, of irresponsibility.
In a speech from Wilmington, Delaware, Biden said many of America's security agencies had been hollowed out under President Donald Trump.
The truth is, many of the agencies that are critical to our security have incurred enormous damage. Many of them have been hollowed out in personnel, capacity, and in morale.
Earlier this month, Biden's team said they had met resistance to their requests for information from some Pentagon officials, concerns he reiterated on Monday.
We have encountered roadblocks from the political leadership at the Department of Defense and the Office of Management and Budget.
The Pentagon pushed back against the Biden team's earlier complaints. A senior defense official last week said that the Pentagon had conducted 163 interviews and 181 requests for information, and that it would continue to provide information and meetings. Trump has refused to concede defeat, and his administration only authorized cooperation weeks after Biden won. Biden will be sworn into office on January 20th. Novavax has begun a large late-stage study of its COVID-19 vaccine trial in the United States, the drug developer said on Monday, after delaying the trial twice due to issues in scaling up the manufacturing process. It will enroll up to 30,000 volunteers across about 115 sites in the United States and Mexico, with two-thirds of them receiving the shot 21 days apart and the rest getting placebo. Novavax lags behind other drug makers in the global race for a COVID-19 vaccine, with shots from Pfizer and Moderna authorized for emergency use in the United States. Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca also have Phase 3 trials already underway in the U.S. Novavax, which is getting funding of up to $1.6 billion from Operation Warp Speed, is preparing to deliver 100 million doses to the United States early next year, if the vaccine is proven to be safe and effective in the trial.
A number of Palestinian militant groups launched 8 rockets into the Mediterranean Sea off the Gaza Strip on Tuesday, at the start of what they call their first ever joint exercise. Israeli media described the exercise as a show of force organised by Iran. The 24-hour exercise was announced on behalf of a joint command set up by the groups in 2018, including fighters from Hamas and Islamic Jihad. It includes land and coastal exercises they described as a test of their preparedness for any future confrontation with Israel. Spokesman Abu Ubaida.
These resistance drills are an assurance of the readiness of the resistance to defend our people in all its states and under all circumstances, and the leadership of the resistance is ready for any battle to protect our land and people. God is mighty, and victory to our people and resistance.
Tensions between Iran and Israel have risen since the assassination of a top Iranian nuclear scientist last month. Iran has blamed Israel for his death, but Israel has neither confirmed nor denied it played a role. Tuesday's Gaza missile display did not trigger any sirens in Israel, whose drones keep a close eye on Gaza and which employs a sophisticated missile interception system.
Bangladesh started moving a second group of Rohingya refugees to a low-lying island in the Bay of Bengal on Tuesday, despite opposition from rights groups worried about the new site's vulnerability to storms. Some clutching ducks, pigeons and chickens in bamboo baskets, others wearing orange life vests and masks against the coronavirus. The nearly 2,000 refugees were taken on 5 boats from a refugee camp on the border to Basham Char, an island which only emerged from the sea 20 years ago and is prone to flooding. The measure has sparked criticism from rights groups which allege that people are being moved against their will. Foreign Minister Abdul Momen has dismissed concerns about the island's safety and accused groups of spreading negative propaganda about people being forced. The government has built a 7.5-mile-long embankment to protect the island from regular storms, as well as housing for 100,000 people. Reuters is withholding the names of refugees going to the island because of the controversy surrounding the relocation, with many refugees keen to stay on the mainland and opposed to the move. The Rohingya are a Muslim minority ethnic group which fled Myanmar for Bangladesh in 2017 following a military-led crackdown. Since then, they've been living in overcrowded and squalid camps in Cox's Bazar. The United Nations says it hasn't been involved in the relocation and urged the government not to force people to move.
The family of a Reuters cameraman arrested in Ethiopia on Thursday the 24th of December say he will be detained for a further 2 weeks while police investigate. Kamera Gamechu has not been charged and no reason was provided to the family for the arrest. Police and government officials did not respond to Reuters' requests for comment about the detention. 38-year-old Kamera has worked for Reuters as a freelance cameraman for a decade. His arrest follows government pressure on journalists from some local and international news outlets, which have been covering the conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. Government forces there have been battling the former ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF. Kamera covered the Tigray conflict, but Reuters was unable to determine whether his arrest was connected to his work. In a statement on Monday, Reuters editor-in-chief Stephen Adler strongly condemned the detention. Kamera is part of a Reuters team that reports from Ethiopia in a fair, independent and unbiased way, and his work demonstrates professionalism and impartiality, Adler said. He added that journalists must be allowed to report the news in the public interest without fear of harassment or harm.
Like thousands of key workers around the world, Iranian nurse Sumaye Hosnzadeh spent the first 40 days of the pandemic on the hospital front lines. As a supervisory nurse, Hosnzadeh and her colleagues provided the majority of patients' day-to-day care, working back-to-back shifts, even on vacation days, as the number of hospitalised cases was on the rise daily.
Many of our colleagues got infected, but they continue their work more determinedly than before because they themselves have suffered this pain and they're trying to get better in order to take care of patients.
Separated from her family for 40 days, she described the first few months as a war scene. Iran's health ministry says 60% of nurses have been infected with the coronavirus, and 10 months on, Hosnzadeh's uniform still consists of a mask, double gloves, a cap, a hazmat suit and overshoes. To remove all these at the end of the day is delicate and complicated, she says, but necessary in order for her to safely go home. Iran has been the worst-hit country in the Middle East by the global pandemic. It launched human trials of its first domestic COVID-19 vaccine candidate on Tuesday, according to state media. Tehran says it could help it defeat the virus, despite US sanctions interfering with its ability to import vaccines. SATAD, a giant state-affiliated conglomerate, says production of the vaccine could reach 12 million doses per month, 6 months after a successful trial ends. The first volunteers to take the vaccine were officials of the conglomerate and the daughter of its head, an apparent effort to boost public confidence in the vaccine.